who wants to be in a relationship with a man where you're walking on eggshells? Everything you do, you got to worry about, is he going to like this? Is he going to accept this? Does he approve of this? You know, I don't want to be embarrassed in front of this person. Like you're going to get cortisol face, babe, because you're constantly in fight or flight trying to figure out if this person approves of this and that. Hello, angels. Welcome back to Quality Queen Control. We're back at it again with another solo episode. New setup. What do we think? Firstly, I do want to address some things because we are making some changes here on the pod. So one, the new setup. Okay, how are we liking that? Two, I also want you guys to tap in, make sure that you are following the Quality Queen Control podcast channel specifically, because that is now the only place that you will be finding the full episodes of the podcast. The podcast will no longer be uploaded on the Aisha Christina Foster YouTube channel. It will only be on the Quality Queen Control podcast channel, just so that we have a clean distinction of what is going where. And honestly, I feel like it may be a little bit time for me to start over and focus on growing the podcast channel as opposed to continuing to put my energy in the main channel or what was the main channel. I want the podcast channel to become the main channel. We can grow it way more, you know, and past, honestly, the 200,000 followers. I'd love to get this channel to, let's just start out by saying a nice 20K, right? 10, 20K, and then we'll grow from there. But it takes team effort. So I just wanted to clarify that before we get into the actual episode. I think that's it for the announcements, but hope your summer's going well. And thank you so much for spending time with me. So today we're going to be talking about the psychology of control and how to spot those red flags before it's too late. Because one of the biggest misconceptions about manipulation is that it will always look obvious. And that's not necessarily the case, because some people that are controlling are charming, right? They are generous. They're even spiritual. Yeah. You know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, just because someone is a spiritual person, first of all, spiritual in what? Because I'm not a spiritual person. I know in the past, old episodes, I did identify as that ignorantly because I didn't understand exactly what it meant. But I do identify as a Christian, and my spirituality and faith, I would like to say, I prefer to use the term faith, is in Jesus Christ, nothing else, right? Not crystals or anything like that. And I do find that oftentimes, just because someone is or claims to be those things, it's not lost on me that that doesn't mean that they know everything, doesn't mean that they qualify to be a certain way that's negative, that's hurting someone, and they get a pass on it because of, you know, their role or their influence or anything being deemed as a spiritual type of person. So there's a little story time that I do have, but who knows? Let me marinate on it a little bit more before I think about getting into it. Next question. But these types of people, they don't necessarily force you to give up your power, but they gradually sort of convince you to hand it over, right? So in today's episode, we are going to be exploring how manipulation works and why people even fall for it in the first place and how to recognize it before it is too late. Control is essentially about shaping how somebody thinks or feels or even sees themselves, right? So healthy influence, there is such a thing, right? Respects your freedom, but manipulation, it depends on that fear and on that guilt, on the confusion, and also the dependency. Think about that. So the common tactics of trying to control someone is going to look like love bombing. It's going to look like gaslighting you. It's going to look like isolating you. It's going to look like guilt, manipulation, just fear, okay? Constantly moving the goalposts, okay? You ever, especially this happens a lot of the times in romantic dynamics where you are dating a guy and every time you just convince yourself, okay, if I just do this, or if I give him exactly what he wants in this aspect, okay, he's going to be the man of my dreams. He's going to finally put a ring on it. He's going to do this, whatever it is. But every time you get closer to that goal, it moves. The target moves. Right? Then there's projection, there's triangulation, and then there's also identity erosion. All right. These are all the ways, the common tactics usually that can be used to control you. Because again, we have to remember that if you can control how someone sees, feels, or thinks of themselves, that is what matters. That's why, especially as it pertains to friendship dynamics, right? Anytime you have a person that is trying to control the narrative of other people, I have unfortunately experienced this, and I'm not the only person in the world that has experienced it. I know that you guys have too, where people, they are so bothered by your presence. You might not even realize that you're a threat to them, and you have this light and this way about yourself. And you have people that are trying to control the narrative around you so that they can influence people's perception of you. Now you're looking at yourself, and this also corresponds with the identity erosion, where all of a sudden you feel like, man, I don't know, am I this way? Did I deserve what this person said to me? Did I deserve what this person did to me? All the different things. And I think it's weak. There's a time and a place to express how you're feeling, so to speak, right? There is a time and a place for it. However, it is my belief that a lot of the times people are walking around talking about others and trying to influence the perception of others just because they're the weaker party. That's what it is. If I could get to air out my grievances before this person does, I can control the narrative. And for some reason, when I spoke about this a couple months ago on an Instagram reel, people were misconstruing my message and basically essentially trying to accuse me of allowing abusive behavior to perpetuate. And I was like, wait, I was not even touching that. By no means would I ever hop on God's internet and talk about promoting the silence of abuse victims. And that was my message. That is asinine. That makes absolutely no sense. I would never advocate for any such thing. The problem probably is that some people can't identify what anything is. They can't differentiate abuse versus a regular normal fight. Okay. They can't differentiate they have to use a buzzword and do all this stuff. So they're immediately jumping to defense, or maybe they have experienced that and they just see me through that lens that I'm someone that's trying to silence them as well, which will never, ever, ever be the case. I would never do such a thing. What I was talking about and what I am talking about today is your typical run-of-the-mill disagreement or fallout, and people will try to control you and control the perception of how you were seen so that eventually that becomes your identity. This directly corresponds with jealousy and envy, because people that are jealous of you, that are envious of you, there will be some control and manipulation tactics that are usually involved, okay? And the thing is, you might think, okay, getting manipulated is for stupid people. No. Manipulation happens gradually, all right? It works off of empathy. It works off of optimism. Oh, it's going to get better. Things are going to change. And it also requires an emotional investment. Honestly, can make anybody vulnerable. I remember there was a time where I fell out with someone and it wasn't even a bad falling out. That's what's even more bizarre about it. It was not a bad falling out. It was just clearly it's not working out. Let's just go our separate ways. And I ended up seeing that person in person, and she had a friend accompanying her. And the friend, who I've never met a day in my life, was giving me nasty looks. As a woman, you can tell when someone is just not vibing with you. And I was fully confused. And I think in the moment, what was so irritating about the situation and that realization was, then it dawned on me, oh, she must have been talking about me negatively to her friend. And now her friend feels like, mind you, it was a brand new friendship. They haven't even been friends for 6 months, okay, at this point. And the girl is just blindly and idiotically taking this girl's side, never having met me or anything like that. Brand new friendship. Okay. And just blindly trying to act on and have a demeanor about herself based off of what the other individual had shared about me. So I even let it go because I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not going to read into it. There was another incident where there was another time where I did see the individual again. And I was fully shocked that she felt this strongly again, like in person, very, very standoffish, very unfriendly, like and I was like, wait, what? Like, I don't care so much. I didn't go to my friends, hey, you better unfollow this girl. You better, like, it wasn't that deep to me. Do I follow her? No, but I wasn't going to my friends. Like, it wasn't that type of friendship ending. Do you understand what I'm saying? That I felt like, okay, everyone that's rocking with Aisha Christina, this was a huge betrayal. I'm going to be offended if you follow this person or whatever. It wasn't even that. It wasn't even that, guys. It wasn't even that. And yet she did do the same thing to me. And I still did not do the same thing to her, you know? And the point is that I'm trying to make is that she's a weak person because she's one of many though. She has to go around controlling the narrative because I got to get to them before you do. I got to control them before you do. Let's even talk about what happened to me very, very early on in my YouTube career where, yeah, like now looking back, oh my gosh, I didn't even want to address anything or, speak about anything to do with a situation that not only confused me, but how somebody can continue to talk about me for years and years and years and years unprovoked. I never once said anything nasty, spirited, or angry towards the individual. Still haven't done it at all, even though I have been more vocal about what has happened now. And I paid the price for that. And I completely stayed silent in never even defending myself in any capacity. And that person is just mentally ill, where she was obsessed with trying to take me down. I have phone recordings, police reports, I have voice memos, every full-blown proof that is documented with the cops of this individual harassing me for years on end, calling my friends at their jobs to tell them to not be friends with me. Like things that were just so egregious and so heavy and so dark-spirited and evil. And for what, I don't know. She clearly feels like I took something from her, but would never discuss it with me, which I find odd because if you have a problem with somebody, usually you want to confront that person about what it is that they've done. But for her, admittedly, she felt better about talking about her lies and opinions on the internet instead of actually just speaking to me because that was her moneymaker at the time. Who knows what she's doing now? I mean, I don't keep up, but it was obvious that that was really the play, you know? And I think, to be honest, when I separated myself and I wanted to do my own thing because I started to notice like something just is not right here, is when I think she started getting upset because I think for her, she was projecting onto me that I took something from her. But I think what I took was my presence. And because because she lost access to me, then I saw the real her. Right? She didn't have the same access to me. And I've said this before in another podcast. When people do not have the same access to you, watch how they treat you from then on out. And so because I simply wanted something called space, because she was very overbearing, very temperamental, I'm always having to chase her down and apologize to her for things. And for her, it's like, girl, we just don't click. And you want me to just like chase you and kiss your butt and all these different things. And you went on a smear campaign about me for 4 years unprovoked for absolutely no reason. Like, do you feel good about yourself that you've done something like this to someone in the world? Who knows, right? That's not for me to figure out. Like, she has to work that out with herself, and who knows if she ever will. I don't really care. But the main point here is that her biggest thing was she had to control the narrative. And so she used that as a time, the drama that she was manufacturing, as a time to spew out lies and try to control how her audience and the public saw me so that they can see me the way that she saw me. And it was obviously all a projection because she was just threatened by me and threatened by the fact that I was going to, surpass her or whatever the case is. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. So I did not realize all of these things until way after, because for the majority of the time that this was happening to me, I just felt sadness and just deep hurt of like, what did I do? Like, why is this not a discussion? Why does it have to be the internet? I'm getting DM'd from like fake accounts, people cursing me out on a daily basis. I am getting threats to my life, to leave just very crazy things that are being done to me and said about me and all these different things. And I think also the number one thing that scared me in this extreme of a case was she knew everything about my life when I knew nothing about hers. Like, she knew everything current about my life, who I was currently friends with, what I was doing. I remember at the time, one time my Instagram got deleted and she was like telling one of my friends, because that's who she would hit up. And I remember thinking, how does she know that I'm even friends with this person? And she would say like, and that's why her Instagram got deleted and all these different things, whatever. It just goes to show, like, how are you this updated on my life? Like, I don't understand how this is continuing to go on. But again, people that are miserable in life and people that are very weak-minded, this is just the truth. They have a fear of losing something, so they have to resort to these controlling tactics, all right? They have to resort to making you feel doubtful about yourself. They have to resort to planting seeds amongst other people so that they can have an ignorant band of loyal followers, like Janice Ian said from Mean Girls, okay? What else did she say? Regina would be nothing without her high-status man candy, technically good physique, and ignorant band of loyal followers. So that's, in this case, ignorant band of loyal followers is what it is. And so I also say that to say this, I caution you guys to be more mindful and aware of who you're following on social media and discerning how that person may be weaponizing their audience, right? Like, remember when Demi Lovato got upset because an ice cream place or something, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know, said something about it being not fat-free or sugar-free, something along those lines, and her audience started on her behalf putting negative ratings on that place, and you can't delete negative ratings on a workplace. And you just have to be very responsible with how you utilize your following. But I also remember there was one memory I had where I went to the nail salon with this individual that I was just discussing and referencing earlier, and the one that did the smear campaign against me online, not the one who did it in person. Okay, she went to the nail salon, didn't like her nails. And I remember that she made a comment saying, I should like tell my followers and like have their business, like shut down or something of that nature. I'm paraphrasing. That wasn't the exact sentence. And I remember thinking, wait, what? Like, why would you even think about doing something like that? That's so crazy. Like, okay, you don't like your nails. Next time, speak up for yourself that you don't like your nails, I know it's hard to do, but yeah, like why is that your first thought to like weaponize your audience against the person? You know what I mean? So anytime you are able to control how someone feels about a situation, it tells you everything you need to know, because now you're the head honcho. You're the one that people are dependent on. And then let's not forget romantic dynamics. Anytime you're in a controlling, who wants to be in a relationship with a man where you're walking on eggshells? Everything you do, you got to worry about, is he going to like this? Is he going to accept this? Does he approve of this? I don't want to be embarrassed in front of this person. Like you're going to get cortisol face, babe. Okay. You're definitely going to get that because you're constantly in fight or flight trying to figure out if this person approves of this and that. All right. But this is why you have to be very careful who has access to you in your life. Because if you are someone that's always easily accessible, of course, people are going to say, oh, well, things are different now. Like you're behaving different. You're becoming less accessible. Let me tell you something. You will never benefit trying to be anyone else other than yourself. Okay. So always be yourself, because there's no point in being someone else. The psyche must be heard. So eventually the real you is going to show up. Everyone around you is confused and you're like, what does everyone have a problem with me for? This really is me. But it's because if you allow people to think you're a certain way, what people don't realize as a part of manipulation is people pleasing. People pleasing is a form of manipulation. You are doing things in the hopes that you will be liked in the end. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch this show. I was just talking about it with my producer. I mean, I'm not trying to be like mean or anything or shady, but I don't think it's the most watched Real Housewives franchise, but the Real Housewives of Atlanta franchise. And currently right now there's Portia, who's like a part of the OG cast. And we've always known that Portia has had a best friend named Shamia. The first and only season so far that Shamia gets on this show, their friendship tanked down the drain. And it almost feels like there's this perpetual competitive energy between them of Shamia almost feeling like she's finally speaking up for herself after years of being in Portia's shadow, and she wants to really showcase her talents of singing and being a very well-connected person. She has a very wealthy husband. She's a mother as well, does well for herself, and is just a very connected person. But it seems like there's resentment between Shamea and Portia because it's almost like Shamea feels like she's perpetually in Portia's shadow. So I think, unfortunately, Shamea is perpetually looking for reasons to show Portia, well, I'm going to be a star in front of you. So that's leaking out in unhealthy ways where all of a sudden, Portia is feeling like, okay, why is Shamea being very melodramatic about this? Why is she speaking to this person and not speaking directly to me about how it is that she's feeling? All the different things. And Shamea probably feels that, Portia is, always wanting her to be in her shadow. And we don't know what the truth is, okay? Where essentially Portia is saying she's always advocated for Shamea to be on the show. Shamea is saying, no, you told me I have my own things going for myself, and this is what you have, meaning Portia has the show. This is her thing. This is her lane. Shamea, you thrive in your own lane. Who knows what the truth is, to be honest. But I will say, looking at it, it does look like Shamea is very attention-seeking, and she's always kind of complaining because it probably is the truth. And that's the cost you pay for not being your real self, babe. Okay? The cost and the price you pay is too expensive to not be yourself. It's too expensive for you to be anyone else. It's too expensive for you to fake submit and agree and be agreeable to things that you don't necessarily want to agree to. It doesn't make sense. And yeah, there are times in life where you will be punished for choosing the truth, choosing to honor and respect your boundaries and how you feel. I remember when I was 16 years old, I had a boyfriend and he was just a psychopath. Okay, I think I made a story time about this on my main channel. Like, I think it might have been my first story time on my channel. And he was very unhealthy as an individual. And I remember my parents told me, we don't think this is a good guy for you. I've always listened to my parents. I'm not like a rebel. I did not grow up being a rebel in any capacity. And I remember saying, hey, listen, like, I think it's best that we just become friends. We break up, and my parents also suggested like, this is the best thing for us. And he said, I don't like girls that listen to their parents. I will never forget that sentence. I will never forget that sentence. And I don't remember how I presented it. I don't think at 16, I was like, mommy and daddy said I can't be with you. I think I automatically was like, okay, like, I think we should just be friends. And my naive mind thought that if I added, oh, my parents also feel the same way that I'm feeling, that it would kind of tear like on his heartstrings and it would make him feel like, oh, wow, even her parents feel this way too. No. When you're dealing with a psycho, you're dealing with a psycho, like, end of story. And so I think that it only exasperated what was already there and it brought it to the surface sooner. So he began to cyberbully me. It was just like a collaborative team effort. And I had to get the cops involved there as well. Like, it just was absolutely ridiculous. And it was not normal. The point is sometimes you catch things early and you'll still deal with the consequence of it, unfortunately. Like, when I was done with the friendship where the girl did the smear campaign on me and I just was like, okay, I don't think this is going to work. It wasn't really a discussion that we had. It was just me just naturally starting to distance myself because she gave me no space to just like simply exist as my own person. Like, I had to exist as like an extension of her arm. You know what I mean? And she would get very offended and defensive, like, all the different things and just make up things in her head. But the point is that I stood up for myself and for what I felt and I honored it. And I unfortunately ended up paying a price for that for 4 years of my life. That's just the truth, right? And also, with that being said, you have to discern whether or not it is worth a fight. Some people that want to control you in life, they have nothing to lose. You need to be able to identify if somebody has crazy eyes, okay? You need to be able to identify that. If you can't see that somebody looks off in their eyes and in their spirit, you can't sense that, you got to do some deep self-reflection, because some people, their demeanor and their aura automatically shows you like the type of person that they are to a certain degree. Or it could be incident based, where you had a weird moment where you were like, that was a weird comment to make. Or, one of the things that I noticed, that people that are not meant to be in my life long term, they will make statements like, yeah, like, do you think we're going to be friends like for a long time? Who goes into a friendship with the intention of not being in that person's life? Like, I don't enter into friendships for seasons intentionally. That's not what I do, right? But that's the thing with people like this. And also people that want to come across like they're always putting you onto something. These people are sometimes dangerous because they will inevitably end up leveraging these opportunities and whatever over your head to make you feel like you're nothing without me. And actually, that is what the girl that, I should have named these people, but that is what the girl that talked about me to her friend, and her friend was being like not the friendliest to me as well. That's what she did. She was just trying to, not to me specifically, at least to my knowledge, but there was another mutual friend that we had that she had a falling out with. And she legit was walking around town, like gossiping about the girl 24/7. So the girl was getting unfollowed. People were, it's just the energy just switched up and became different. So it's obvious that like she's the only independent variable in connection, that people would be isolating her and doing all this stuff. It's because she was just doing what people that are weak do. They have to try and control the narrative. And what really just eats me up? People that are always trying to act like they put you onto something. These types of people will inevitably always try to leverage what they feel they put you onto. That is something that I was grappling with in my life at one point, because I didn't have the heart to tell this person, I already know about that opportunity. I already got that opportunity, but I just let you think that you told me first. And that was on me. I should have said, oh yeah, I know, I heard about that too, which I've definitely improved on 100%. But I think at first, for some reason, I wouldn't express that. And that's on me. I take radical accountability for that, where people would just assume that because I am a humble person, I don't wear my followers and my achievements and all these different things on my head, that, oh, that means like stomp on her or something like that, which is interesting because I don't have a pushover personality in any capacity. But a lot of the times too, these people, they try to project onto you exactly what they are doing, right? The liar is always going to call you dishonest, okay? A liar is going to lie first and fast. Always. Yeah. The controlling person is always going to call you controlling, all right? And then the person that wants to triangulate you is always going to bring another person into the dynamic to create jealousy, to create competition, to create insecurity, then project that onto you and say, what are you talking about? Why would what? Like, who even has time for that? Like, who would you do? You very much do. You very much have the time to triangulate in this situation. You very much do. And that's what these sick individuals do. They don't know how to take accountability for anything, right? So even in a romantic dynamic, like I just explained, they can make comments like, well, my ex was fine with this. Everyone else agrees with me. That is like the number one thing. I was watching Real Housewives of Miami, and I remember Adriana, I think her name is, they're having an argument amongst themselves for a party that Gertie had curated Tulum themed for Julia. Anyways, long story short, Adriana literally says to Gertie out of nowhere, you know what? Nobody likes you anyway at this table. Or like no one even likes you here. That's like, okay. So then obviously Martina steps up and goes, I like you, or I like her. And that shut it down, because why are you speaking on behalf of everyone else? Like and I'm not going to lie to you. For me, I know some of you might not watch these shows, but for those that do, you understand what I'm saying. It just gives me miserable energy. Now that I've been watching the seasons, I have been watching them backwards. I feel like Adriana is in a perpetual state of like hateration. And hating is, and I posted this on Instagram the other day. Let me see if it's still in my story. Okay. I'm paraphrasing here, but on Instagram, I posted something that basically said, hating is the biggest sign of personal failure. And that is exactly true. Anytime you are perpetually hating on somebody, it is a sign and indication of personal failure. Hello. And that's what I think after Adriana's divorce and all the different things, she's so lonely. That's why she perpetually put so much pressure onto Julia. This matters. Why? Because she did try to control Julia. She was upset that Julia then became friends with other people. And this is relevant to everyone across the board because we've all experienced friendships like this, perhaps, or people like this, perhaps. Anytime somebody wants to isolate you, they want to put all their eggs in your basket. You got to be their mother, their father, their brother, their confidant, their everything. Like, it's such a weird dynamic, and it's such a disproportionate and unrealistic way to view life and relationships, because nobody should be your absolute everything where you have no life outside of said person. That doesn't make any sense. And I think that is why Adriana perpetually fails in feeling disappointed and all these different things, because she has her personal failure of feeling like her marriage failed and all these different things. And so her next comfort thing to do, because she's unhealed so far, at least, is put everything into Julia. The second that Julia starts to branch out and make other friends, she's all of a sudden feeling like, well, I own you. I introduced you to this group. I'm the one that brought you around this group. How can you betray me by being friends with other women in the group that I've had problems with? Well, you've had problems with everyone in the group. Did you forget that? You've had problems with everyone in the group. You've said vile things to everyone in the group, okay? I don't want to get into more detail for those that don't even watch the show, but that's what people like this do. That's just the principle that I'm trying to highlight here, is that's what they do. Then there is the most dangerous of them all tactic, right? Which is identity erosion. So after a while, you stop asking, like, what do I really want to do? Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go there? Why am I feeling anxiety over having to show up for this person for every single thing that they do? Even when I genuinely cannot justify making time for it, but you'll start asking yourself, what is going to make this person happy? What can I do to prevent this person from being upset at me? How can I over-explain more so that they don't feel away, right? And that is when the manipulation has then shifted, influencing your behavior to reshaping your identity. Now you're a shadow of this person, and you're always trying to consider what they want over anything that you want, right? And that is not normal. Okay. And honestly, even if you want to tie this into faith, right? John 10:10 talks about the thief only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Baby, that's demonic. Okay. Some people are walking around with demonic spirits. Yes, it is that deep. And yes, I said demonic. Okay. Demonic. Get over it. It is exactly that, because it's spirits that control. We are spirits. We are spiritual beings that can speak and that have a physical body, but we are spirits. That's what we are at the end of the day. Anyways, we know that the enemy, for all my believers, comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That is what people are doing to your peace. You have to protect it. People will come to steal your joy. They will steal your peace. They will try to, kill the essence of who you are. They will try to destroy you by discrediting you so that no one believes you whenever you try to speak up for yourself. And you have to remember that God has not given us a spirit of fear. That is the thing that you need to remember, because fear opens up doors for the enemy to perpetuate whatever his whack agenda is. That is just the truth. If you learn about the courts of heaven, that's a story for another day. But I say all that to say, the biggest thing that people benefit from is fear and also pity. Pity allows people to continue to manipulate people, and fear allows people to continue to control you. Never allow people to put fear in your heart. That is the second that they will continue to control you. Remember what I said. People that want to manipulate you are going to work off of pity, because you're always going to justify why they feel this way. Oh, I know deep down they're a great person. Oh, I know how they grew up when they were younger. No. Next question. Because you should never allow people to manipulate you, one, period, and also erode at your self-identity, your boundaries, and your self-respect. And then lastly, you should never allow people to instill fear in you through that control, because that shows you're idolizing that person. And who are they? We're all human beings on God's green earth, okay? And in addition to that, that is how you allow people to continue to let their plan, whatever that, and that's a demonic spirit. I said what I said. It's a demonic spirit for people to be trying to control the outcomes of what you're doing and where you're going and all these different things. demonic. Next question. Okay. So the greatest weapon of a manipulative person, we're going to close on this note, is your self-doubt, right? If you're fearful, if you're pitying that person, eventually you have to evaluate consistent patterns rather than their promises. AKA, actions always speak louder than words. Okay? Healthy relationships are gonna produce peace, self-respect, and also freedom, okay? Not fear or confusion. Hello. Confusion is a breeding ground for deception. So if this episode has resonated with you, or if you've identified any of these tactics or anything like that, let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure that you guys give this a 5-star rating anywhere that you were listening to it. It really helps out the show a lot. I want to have some guests on here as well. So let me know who you guys would like me to interview on the show to talk about how we can traverse through these experiences that we feel in life. I mean, wouldn't it be so cool to interview someone about a story that they've dealt with on envy and jealousy, or a story that they've dealt with and survived out of being controlled and all the different things? I'd love to hear people's perspective on these things. And so let me know what guests you guys would like to have. But furthermore, make sure you guys are subscribed to Quality Queen Control podcast channel, because this is the only way and the only place that you will see visual full episodes of Quality Queen Control. With that being said, do not forget that I love you and God loves you. I'll speak to you beautiful angels in my next video. Mwah.